Welcome to the Resistering Show with your host, Tiffany.
Tanya.
Trina.
Join us as we uncover, discover, and recover together. Today's topic is intentions. So my sisters and I had actually made intentions for our podcast for the new moon that was just a few days ago. And as we were doing that, I had this kind of revelation, I guess. Years and years and years, I've set goals. And even when I used to run track and field, we would always have goals. You know, you have a goal of this time, you have a goal of whatever it might be. And in sales and business, I would always set all of these goals. And then as time went on, I even was setting personal goals. And when I would set these goals, you'd put a time, like in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And I just had a really big disconnect between a goal and me for some reason. I couldn't always necessarily realize those goals. So this time, setting these intentions, it kind of clicked with me what an intention versus a goal is. A goal is kind of like an umbrella. So I want to purchase a new home. Well, an intention could be visualizing what that home would look like and how to help manifest it. So my intention is to have a new house, and then you might decide that house is going to have all kinds of windows, and it might have a studio, and it has privacy in the backyard, and the walls are a certain color. So my intention is kind of maybe a little bit more larger, grand scale than an actual goal. And then the key to that, Trina and Tanya, was what we actually said, this or something better. Because sometimes we have a goal in mind and we're very third dimension in this world. And we're like, I'm going to make $150,000 a year. I'm going to make whatever your goal might be. This or something better intention has more, because we don't always know what's going to actually happen. So we might decide that once we reach that goal that we're happy. But an intention for me, like that difference kind of resonated with, I have this thing already. So when I was writing out my intentions, we could actually even read some of our intentions. Maybe we'll pull some of those out. That might be kind of fun to do today. So you're almost like in it. You've already achieved it, where a goal is it's something in the future. And it may or may not be tangible, and it may not even be necessary once you reach it. Like, well, that was a great goal, but it didn't really do anything for me. Does that make sense to either one of you guys? Did either one of you have like a revelation when you were doing your intentions this time versus some goals that you may have set up in the past?
Kind of like New Year's resolution. That is a goal. And people are all excited. Oh, I'm going to achieve this, and this, and this. And that's a goal. And how many times have the New Year's resolutions fizzled out after a month, a week, for however long? And then we always feel bad about it. So any thoughts on the goals versus intentions?
So Tanya, Tiff, thanks for sharing that. And Tiffany, when you talked about, setting an intention and saying this or something better, I realized real quick that I could have anything that I desired. My thoughts, my words, my actions all needed to align, though. And I'm responsible for my thoughts, my words, and my actions. So I may ask for $150,000 a year, but I may not feel worthy. And so there's a story underneath that says, that'll never really happen. So I don't believe it truly. I don't believe I deserve abundance. I don't believe I deserve good things to happen for me. So I might say, I deserve $150,000, but underneath that, truly, I'm conflicted. I'm actually lying to myself. So when I start healing what's underneath and saying, there's enough abundance in the world for everybody. Me having money doesn't take it away from anyone else. Everyone deserves to have all their wants, needs, and desires met. Then things change and I start to attract abundance. And abundance doesn't just mean money. It means health. It means love. And about 8 years ago, Tiffany and I were reading The Language of Letting Go, and she said, I set all my intentions for January 1st. There are all these questions. And it was even questions such as, what character defects would you like to see removed? What would you like to attract into your life? Career, family, friends, love. And about that time, about 8 years ago, I had written all these questions and all these things that I was putting out there as an intention, and I'm actually living every single one of those today. And so when you talked about this or something better, I realized I could have even asked for more and not to limit the universe and what it's going to bring to me. For instance, I asked for a dharma, a career path. I was completely lost with that, and I was re-entering the workforce after staying home with my kids for many, many years. And I would have never dreamed that health coaching was the direction I was going to be taken in. It wasn't even in my vocabulary. I didn't limit the universe, but it gave me purpose, a way to help, a way to give back, a way to be excited, a way to be excited about, my future. So I love, setting an intention, but not restricting the universe, but I also get specific. So if either one of you had any intentions that you had to kind of realign your inner beliefs with?
For me, I was imagining myself doing a job of x-ray, and I would see myself going to the hospital, clocking in. That is what I wanted. That was a goal, maybe. I don't know what you would call it, an intention, a goal, but that's what I wanted. And I imagined myself getting dressed in my scrubs, and as my badge, I was clocking in. And the more you can put feelings into it and feel yourself and be happy. And do you know what happened?
What happened, Tanya? Did you actually become an X-ray tech?
Well, I was already a technician, but my job, I could not find a job. And do you know that I got a job without an interview?
Wow.
The guy, the lady,
so cool.
I met a lady at a Christmas party from a job that I was currently working. And he's like, oh, my wife does that. And we got to talking, and she's like, oh, he's looking for a position. And the guy called me on the phone and said, well, you can start tomorrow. And it took a while. But the intent was, this is what I want. And I envisioned myself. And who knew I could get a job doing x-ray without an interview? Crazy.
Love that, Tanya. And that reminds me of my entire life. I thought you had to work really hard. And Tiffany brought up the third dimension. Everything has to be hard. There's not enough to go around. I have to work 40, 50 hours a week, and I have to do all this, and I have to struggle. And I found out, and I know you guys have too, I don't have to struggle. I do have to put in some work. Sometimes that work is meditating, setting an intention, clearing myself, keeping my mind and body healthy, and start to take some actions. But as you said, when it's right and you're on the right path, everything falls into your lap. And I'll give one little example of that. Our dog had passed away many years ago, and we decided it was time to get a new dog. I didn't know what to do. And so I set an intention, and I just kind of left it alone. I got an email. It was the only email I've ever gotten. It was someone on my tennis team. They were rehoming a beagle. And it was an older family that was going into nursing care, and so they needed a home for their dog. We thought it was 8. It was a 10-year-old dog. So I showed it to my husband at the time, and he was not really wanting another dog because it could be really restrictive. Our kids were very active in sports, and I showed it to him. And he said, sure. And I said, what? And he goes, when I was a kid, I always wanted a beagle. And this beagle's name was Benny. And my husband at the time, his friends called him Benny. So we're getting Benny the beagle. So it all worked out perfectly. I didn't have to search. I didn't have to go anywhere. I've only received 2 emails about dogs in my life, and both of those dogs became part of my family. And then even funnier with how funny God is and the universe is, I had a baby shower at my house. And the woman that was having the shower invited a bunch of women I didn't know. And I'm in a recovery program, and a lot of these women were in the program too. So I'm talking to this woman, and my daughter lets Benny the beagle out of the bedroom. And she goes, oh, and the beagle runs up to her. There's 30 women in my house, runs right up to her. And she starts petting Benny the beagle. And she says, I love beagles. My grandparents always had beagles. They always named their beagles Benny. But they had to go into a nursing home, so they had to give their dog Benny away.
Get out of here.
Yes. I said, no way. And she goes, and I told her the story that this was Benny the Beagle, that the owners went into nursing home. She calls her grandparents, and it is their dog. I crack up. And that dog, he was a jerk. We loved him. He was funny as anything. He was perfect for us. He really helped my daughter through some really, really tough times. They bonded like you would not believe. It was from God. And so literally, I put the intention out that I wanted a dog. It happened without me hardly doing anything except saying yes. And then God's like, ha, ha, ha. And look at this connection.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. So that just kind of prompting that whole dog story. Same thing happened to us, similar, I guess, Trina. We had lost both of our dogs within like a year or two of each other. And my plate was pretty full. It still is full, but it was, my family was, can we get a dog? Can we get a dog? I'm like, no. I was the one saying no, because I'm like, I don't need anything else to take care of. I just couldn't even imagine. And especially the word puppy. Hoy, I just couldn't do it. And so I started, because the seed kept getting planted for me, like, we need a dog. Oh, Ben needs a dog, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, nobody needs a dog. Because I knew what that meant. It means Tiffany was going to be taking the dog to the vet. Tiffany was going to be feeding and walking the dog. Tiffany was going to be just doing everything that a dog needs. Tiffany was going to be responsible. Even though my daughter, she's so wonderful, she wrote this letter to me of why she needed a dog. And I wish I had it right here, but it was just all the things that she was going to do and why we needed a family dog. She was going to walk the dog, feed the dog, give the dog water, play with the dog, everything. And like, mommy was going to have to do nothing. I knew that was a lie, but her intention was really, really good behind it. And it was a beautifully written letter. So again, that got just kind of put on hold. And so I started looking through, I don't know, they were like just different ads for dogs, not ads, but what do you call them? Like
rescue.
Yes, the rescue sites. Thank you for rescuing me, my words. So I started looking through them, and this woman had posted through one of the rescue sites, but she had specifically rescued the dog. And because she did so many rescues for cats, that they allowed her to post her post on their site. And it was this dog, and they called him Han Solo. And the story was, she had found this dog in the woods. Somebody had told her, and they knew that she rescued animals. Hey, this dog is living in the woods in Decatur. And so she said it took her probably 4 or 5 months for the dog to even get used to her, to where he would trust her enough to even accept the bedding she put down for him, the little dog house, the food, everything that she was doing. Well, she stayed with it for 4 or 5 months to get the dog, I guess, come over to her. So she finally was able to rescue the dog, and the dog has a permanent leg disability. And where the leg had been broken, and the orthopedic vet was like, there's no way to fix this. You would have to re-break it. And then the amount of pain that the dog would be in, it wouldn't really be worth it. And the leg needs to stay on because it's not actually causing any pain. So here the dog is like a mixed bully breed. He's got this permanent leg issue. And I just saw his face and I read his backstory. I was like, this is the dog for me. I'm like, he's a little bit broken, kind of like me. And he's so sweet. And his face, I just knew. So the lady had brought the dog over, and she's got lots of energy, and grandkids, lots of energy. And the dog was a little skittish, and he probably was living on his own at least 6 months, probably a year. So I fell in love with the dog. And my husband is not sure, because the dog is not the type of dog that just runs over and is like so excited. He's very apprehensive. So I just couldn't stop thinking about the dog. I'm like, this dog is our dog. My kids love the dog. So it ends up we adopt this dog, and we ended up naming him Oreo because he looks like a little Oreo cookie. And he is like the sweetest, most gentle dog, and he's very loyal. But guess what? I did kind of pick the dog for me. I considered everybody, but I knew what I could handle. So the intention of getting a dog, but my intention of a dog was a dog that could help support us in a calm way. I didn't need anything else that was a little too spastic. And so my intention, I guess, was
Answered,
and my prayers were answered, and everybody was satisfied, even though they think they want this really hyper dog and one that goes out and plays. I'm like, you don't want that, because the dog, you might sometimes hear him snoring in the corner of our room because he likes to be around us. And they come to us when we are ready and when we're open. And I believe when we say, or this or something better, that it
sounds like you told the truth too. For instance, you didn't go with, oh, my kids need a puppy, it needs a hyper dog. You actually searched inside. And so you were true to your intention. And so the universe got a clear message of what you needed, what you could handle, what you could give, and be of service to. And Oreo, just a plug for Oreo. I love Oreo. He is just an awesome old soul, more evolved than all of us. And you got really blessed.
Yes, it was absolutely 100% just a cosmic thing. As soon as I saw him and I read his story, I was like, this is the dog for me. And to have a bully breed and to have a dog that has a little bit of it's not even a disability, but a lot of people would shy away from that because they don't know what the future might hold, because the dog might have to at some point in his life have his leg amputated. But for me, I was like, this is perfect dog. He's been through some trauma. He's healed. He's evolved. Like you said, he's evolved. His chakra color is just purple. And we can talk about chakra color. He really is evolved.
So intentions. So basically what we've learned over the years is that what we think, who we are, as Tanya said, what we say and what we do all attract to us. And we have the right to live beautiful lives. And, the healthier I get, mind, body, spirit, the more my life becomes magic. I can ask a question, literally the answer could happen 2 seconds later. And I have examples of that, but I'm going to see if Tanya's got any stories to interject before I tell my last story of the day.
My thing is, when we do intentions, the intent is we pray. Well, mine is, for instance, a lot of people will pray before they eat. So I might ask God, to bless the food. Thank you for the people that make it. And then the intent is that my body will use all the nutrients it can efficiently and use whatever it needs to and eliminate whatever it doesn't want to. And then it's giving thanks for whatever you receive. I do believe with your intentions that it is so important to say thank you for Oreo, thank you for Benny, thank you for my food, thank you. And the intent of anything you do, and the more you use the intentions and gratitude, thank you for the little things. Oh, somebody helped me pick up something I dropped on the floor. Thank you. I think more and more prosperity comes to you. And sometimes I do get away, I forget, and I go through my little phases. I'm like, my intent, I set it out for the day, and then I might go a couple days. And so that is something that I need to work on a little bit more. Trina has her own routine every day that she says nothing. It's either she tries to do it in the morning, or if she can't catch it the morning, then it'll be sometime in that day. But those are something that she always does. So I am working on getting more into every single day, setting my intentions, being grateful for the day and whatever comes, to make sure that I do that. That's a given every day.
I love that, Tanya. And I love that intentions don't have to be big. It could just be this meal I'm eating. Even if, for instance, I went out to Mexican and I said, there's nothing I'm eating that's real food. And I said, that is not a good way to think. My body can process anything. And 80% of the time, I try and lead a healthy life. And so I can acclimate this. And this is for pleasure and joy and having fellowship. And you talked about having a morning routine is what you were referring to. And I do have a morning routine. I get on my knees every morning. I thank God for keeping me sober and ask God to keep me sober the next day. I do some readings and I do a meditation if I'm going to write. But I'm a type A perfectionist. So I needed to learn that if I miss a day or if something happens, the whole world isn't going to come to an end. I'm not a terrible person. But I have found out that having a daily practice is very important to me. And when I skip it, I don't do well. So what I said is, if I miss something during the day, I can do it later. There's no rules. I made the rules. If they're not working, I can change them. So if I can't get on my knees because maybe I'm in a hotel room with people, later at 3:00, I can go in the bathroom and it can take 2 seconds, just the fact that I did it. So I give myself grace, but I still do it. And I love what Tanya said about setting those, intentions, asking God, bringing in the light, because it is all of God. And I found out that when I get into God's will, and I don't know what God is, I'm just saying God as a higher power, something that's not me, the love, the light. And I use the word God because it's easy. But I found out that I'm cared for and all my little needs and concerns are responded to. And about 5 years ago when I was living in Florida, I was a mentor for a high school student. And it was a Take Stock in Children program that had, joined up with Habitat for Humanity. And they offered college scholarships to all the children that were in the program as long as they met some requirements. And one was meeting during the school year weekly with a mentor. And I had gotten asked to do that. And that's a whole nother story. But the girl I mentored, she was amazing, but she was struggling in algebra. Well, my own daughter was struggling in algebra and she's bright also, but I didn't know what to do because I was also working on boundaries. I needed to show up each week, be there for her, do what I could, but I couldn't save the world and I didn't need to save her or family or act, like this hero or anything. I just needed to be there for her. But she was having trouble in algebra and I didn't know what to do because she was really struggling and she was confiding with me. So I did my morning readings and not one of them talked about what to do with someone struggling in algebra.
Really?
None. I was like, all right, God, I need some help. Right. Like, what do you want me to do? So I go to drop my daughter off at school that day. I pull up in the parking lot. Someone pulls up next to me. It's someone I haven't seen in 15 years. She used to be one of my neighbors in an old neighborhood. I said, hey, and she said, hey. And I said, are you still working? She goes, I don't work at Take Stock at Children anymore. And I said, what? It's the same, volunteer company that I was volunteering through. Turns out she had been a mentor herself for 10 years. She helped run some of these programs. And I was like, what do I do? I've got a girl struggling with algebra. So she told me we needed to email the teacher. They could get her a tutor. And she gave me like 5 things to do.
Wow.
Literally 2 hours later, I was directly answered. Then I got to my mentee school and this woman walks in who also helped with the program. And I told her what was going on. She goes, oh, I have a math tutor at the center Tuesdays and Thursdays. You're set up for 4:00 now. Instantly had a tutor. We emailed her teacher. Her teacher gave her extra help because he knew that she was in a program and she needed help. We got her a calculator. It was just not of me. And it wasn't that I did anything. The universe needed a vehicle to work through, and I needed to be open, and I needed to ask questions. And so I set out with this intention, use me. What do I do? How much do I get involved? And the answers literally came. Boom, boom, boom. And I love that because I get goosebumps because it's fun when I pay attention.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always have to be so hard.
Right.
Like what we talked about before. And it doesn't have to be so abstract. That's how my relationship to goals always was it was very abstract and it was very, I've got to set this goal. And it didn't.
Failure.
Right. Success, failure. It didn't really mean anything. Okay. So I got that PR on that 400 yard, whatever. And there was
What's
such
a PR on a 400
personal
yard, whatever.
a personal record on the 400 yard dash, right? Whatever. So the point is, those goals, I didn't have a personal connection. And I think what I'm hearing everybody talking about was an intention is how you kind of live your life. Goals are big. They can be small, but even a goal can still have a personal connection for me. That was my difference between like an intention and a goal. And the intention, when I wrote out all of my intentions, it's what I already had. So I was writing it as if I already had it. That was the way that I was instructed how to write an intention.
Can you give us an example of that?
Absolutely. So like, we are successful podcasters. Well, we just started. We are successful because guess what? We've released podcasts.
And that's crazy.
I know. And
just the fact that we did this. I mean, we laugh because we're using microphones and equipment that look like it's
it looks like we're 50 years
50
old.
years old. And we're over here pushing buttons until things work. And
What's
we don't
that feedback? What's that noise going on? And the intention, again, we have to reset our intentions like multiple times because we are sisters, we are women, we like to talk. And sometimes we can get distracted and derailed on our conversation. But the intention of our coming together and the podcast, like our intention was to release a podcast, but it was also probably bigger than that, was resistering.
Can you tell us the definition of sistering and what started all this out?
So we were trying to figure out what our podcast name was going to be. And we threw around a whole bunch of things, and something kept telling me something about the three of us coming back together. I was like, there's something having to do with us coming back together, that synergy. And so I was like, re-sistering. And then I looked up the definition of sistering, which is adding extra material to a damaged material to make it stronger. And typically it's a construction term. So hopefully no one in construction was starting to listen to the podcast and going, oh my goodness, this is so not what I thought it was. Because it's basically like, typically like floor joists. When they're weak in a certain area, you take extra boards and you attach them so that stop squeaking.
We can stop talking about construction because we're going to dig our hole deeper.
I know, but I like building and construction too. But that's a whole other topic.
So we have achieved that.
We actually did.
Intention.
So,
we released a podcast. I can't, it's almost like, oh my gosh, how did it even get out there? It's like magic out on the web. It just appeared. Now we had to do a lot of things.
There's a lot of steps.
But again, our intention was to release a podcast. Mm-hmm. We pray or do a meditation. We pull oracle cards. We do all these things to get us centered. It takes a lot to keep us centered too. So we need a lot of work. But all of a sudden, all the answers come. I had an Akashic record reading. Mm-hmm. And she told me what hosting site to use and that it sends it out to everywhere. And we were looking, but we didn't have a clue. And it was like, oh, there's my answer, literally the next day after we asked the question. So it's been tons of fun. And we have been repairing our relationship. We talked off air about a lot of things, and we're working on how to get along with each other. Not that we don't get along, but to be mindful and, to stop broken patterns and to create new ones, and, to voice when we feel that, something should be addressed. So who's next?
I do have something, because you mentioned Akashic Records. So talking in reference to intentions and the Akashic Records, I was doing this meditation to enter the Akashic Records. And I don't know if these...
Did we lose all the construction people now with the word Akashic Records?
They're like, what's that? Where do I go to get those? So the Akashic Records, I don't know, the other, you guys may have a better definition, but generally it's a spiritual library of all of your thoughts, your feelings, your intentions, anything that's happened to you, your soul's journey. Anything else to add to that?
I was going to say... I'm sorry, Tanya, go ahead.
It's also biblical.
Biblical. Let me help you out.
Yes.
Go ahead.
In the Bible, it is
the book of life, right? That's what they refer to it. Okay.
So it's your past,
biblical,
present, and future. So it's all the history of your individuated soul.
Right. So I've been dealing with some anger issue. So when I got out onto my back porch, it's covered, it's perfect. I laid out my yoga mat. I put on the 20-minute video
Of what?
of the Akashic Records, how to
Okay.
enter the Akashic Records.
Okay.
And it's not a video, it's, what was it? A
Podcast.
podcast. Good gosh, Again, we're showing our age in certain things. So I laid out my mat and I was entering, I was in relaxation, and here comes my son, slams the door, comes out, "Hey mama, what you doing?" And I was only in the records, I would say maybe less than 5 minutes. And my question to the records were, what keeps holding me back from realizing my dreams and my aspirations and my career path and all this kind of things? And I got upset. I got angry because because I'm trying to do something for myself, 20 minutes, and I get interrupted. So
The universe has a sense of humor. That is so funny. Let me just show you.
let me just show you why you're angry, right? So I had to really come full circle and be like, what in the world? Like, here I was going to get all this insight and you just busted in on it. So my message actually was, and I started channeling when I was talking to Trina, because I got the message like, oh, anger, that's what's holding you back. You are holding on to anger. But now I had to dig deeper and figure out, what did the anger do for me? The anger allowed me, the reason I had the anger had to do with things kept getting taken away from me. My time, my purpose, just anything that I wanted for myself. I could be doing it to myself, or other people could be taking something from me. So I would get angry, but also the anger would then act as a deflection. So people would leave me alone because my go-to personality is very open. I'm very forgiving. I probably give too much. I'm pretty open, I guess. So what would happen is I would attract people that would take advantage or use me, or, abuse, not necessarily abuse, but you know what I'm saying? Like, just take advantage of me. So the anger, if I would get angry, people would stop and take me seriously. So I had to figure that out. And I was still in the records. I had phoned my sister, and I'm in the records, and they're still telling me. And I laugh because I've been told before that I sometimes don't listen to my spirit guides. So my spirit guides were like, we got to give her this information.
They said you're hard to pin down.
Hard to pin down. I'm like flighty, right? So, and not in a bad way. So as I'm channeling, I'm still in the records, but the spirit guides had said, we really need to give her information really fast because in 2 seconds, she's going to be on to something else. So the information I got was the anger holding me back. If I could release that anger and see it in a different way and have a relationship with it, you're still allowed to have anger as an emotion, but you're not allowed to let it devour you.
So what is
me.
your intention around anger right now?
So my intention around anger is to see it only as a tool to understand what's happening and to maintain, or actually take my power back. That's the message I keep getting from my oracle cards is stand in your power, take your power back. You are still allowed to give, but you have to maintain your own power. And nobody can take anything from you. So my intention now with the anger is to understand what the situation is, to learn my lesson from whatever situation I feel that someone's trying to take something from me, but then kind of give that no power. So even today I was watching one of my yoga videos, and it was all about healing the chakras and tapping into those. And I'm not kidding. As soon as I turned it on, and there's chanting. Each chakra has a different name, and you can chant that. And 2 minutes into it, here comes my son. And he starts doing stuff. And I was like, okay. And I almost went there to get upset because he's invading my personal space. But I said, you know what? This will be a great time for him to hear this video and this woman talking and doing yoga and talking about the different chakra systems. So you know what he started doing?
What, Tiff?
He started chanting.
Too funny.
Yeah.
because you didn't get angry, you actually changed. You actually took a step into the right direction. You took action. You didn't just wish it away.
Right.
You had a pause, and then you decided what to think, say, and do. There is all this universe magic and power, but then we have to take action, and you actually changed your behavior.
And my intention.
And was your outcome different?
100%.
So what happened?
So I was able to get all my laundry folded while I was watching this.
No way.
Yes. All put away. And my son still was doing what he was doing. He's just active and he was just playing with the dog and setting him up a little bed. And in the past, I would get really upset and I had to explain to him why I didn't want him to use a specific blanket on the floor with the dog. And he's like, oh, okay. So again, my intention, and I had to smile because as I hear him in the background just chanting a little bit, I was like, this is what it's all about. It's all about changing my intention, keeping my power, but it doesn't mean I have to live in a bubble because we don't live in a bubble. And I think we had talked about that too. One of the cards that we had pulled was talking about if we're surrounded by chaos, it appears to be chaotic, but we don't have to live in the chaos.
So what it talked about was life is 10% what happens, 90% the way we handle it. So you could have taken that anger at your son interrupting you and turned it into just a chaotic nightmare. Instead, you decided to pause and act the way a 50-year-old loving mother would act. And that's been my journey too. I am very powerful and I am aware that I have a ton of responsibility now that I'm aware. And that's what's happening. And the challenge is that the stuff doesn't change overnight typically, but it decreases in frequency, intensity, and duration. So I might only get angry 50% of the time now, but it only lasts 30 seconds instead of being mad for, 2 hours and creating all kinds of chaos. And that's what you did. You realized, does this really warrant getting upset? What are my other options? How can I handle this differently? And how about if I take an opportunity to explain to my son why I don't want him to use that one blanket and then be like, I'll pick my battles. He can use all the rest of them. I don't really care.
I did give him a replacement blanket when I didn't really care about.
So your intention is to be the goddess, the warrior, the loving mom, the matriarch. You're a very strong woman. And same as me, once I realized that I caused most of my problems, the good thing is I'm the problem, but I'm also the solution. Once I realized that, I wasn't allowed to act that way anymore. Now I still do it, but I recognize it quicker and my ego doesn't get in the way as much. So I'm able to say, you're right, I was wrong. Sometimes I still go back to that 15-year-old, but it happens less. So it decreases in frequency, intensity, and duration. And we are all doing amazing, but it takes a long time. This is a journey. Had we not had all of our experiences, we wouldn't have the complete understanding and compassion and awareness. And when you unpack this journey, it becomes fun. It becomes interesting. There's signs everywhere. The road is magic. And as you talked about, I live in this 5th dimension where I'm in the lazy river. It's easy. I don't have to do anything. Every once in a while, the buckets all get dumped on me. I get bogged down. I get stuck. But most of the time, it's smooth sailing. So go ahead.
You were talking about buckets and different things. So ever heard the term spitting nails? Like you're really upset and you're just spitting nails. You may not. Again, that's a good construction term. Do I still have the construction people listening? But so I was listening to Amanda Ellis today, and she was talking about something that was getting her fired up and kind of upset.
Now,
and
Amanda Ellis does YouTube videos,
yes,
and she's a channeler, and she's got a lot of good messages.
Yes, she's awesome. I just found her not too long ago, but she had a term, and I really love it, Trina. You're going to love it. It's spitting feathers. And I was like, that is really a good one. She's so upset she's spitting feathers. And we know from just our feather journey, I guess you could say, when Trina, when she's asking for a sign for something, she sees a feather. And then sometimes there's like feather after feather after feather. And it's,
And I still ask for more. I'm like,
Right.
why is no one giving me a sign? And they're
Right.
like, your dog just pooped and peed on 5 feathers, and then
Right.
you saw 6 more, and one floated in front of you. What more do you want?
right. We're giving, and that is, people use those as signs from spirit, is seeing signs of feathers. But I thought that was a really fun, like, visual, spit and feathers.
And more loving.
Yes.
Instead of spitting nails, I am
Yes.
no longer causing damage. I am no longer lashing out. So
Right.
I'm going to spit a feather at you rather
Spitting
than a
feathers.
nail.
And then
Progress.
Right. And then those feathers are used to sweep away things. They're
And they can be someone's sign.
and someone's signs and someone's intentions. So I love that, actually.
Full circle all the way back to intentions.
Yes.
I don't know how we got there because we kind of got off, the subject a little bit, but all the way back
Yeah.
around. I love it.
Yeah. Tanya, anything else to add?
I think we're kind of about done.
Okay. I thought Tanya was going to go with the petered out again. Maybe that'll be our signature. We're all petered out for all you people over the age of 50.
I know it. Where's the clicker? My poor
We
children.
were just
Let's
talking
roll
about
down the window
we were
in the
right.
car.
We were just talking about flip phones.
Yes, flip phones. I mean, there are still a lot of people that do want flip phones.
I still miss the big, huge phone that you can
Yeah.
always find in your purse, and it sits on
Absolutely.
your shoulder, and you can just lean your head over.
Absolutely. Or the one with the cord. Come on.
Right?
now.
Okay.
So that concludes today's episode. We look forward to you joining us next time as we continue to uncover, discover, and recover.